What's up, everybody? Joe Ringen here, coming to you today with another book review. Imagine that, right? Today's book, though, this is a really cool one, and it's not. This fits the goal of this book review channel that I have. Fits it great because I love finding unknown books and in the science fiction and fantasy world, and then presenting them or bringing them out to people that maybe have never heard of them. I think that's an awesome thing. I love finding and reading books that you don't normally see on the bookshelves, right? Um, Not just for the sake of reading weird books or obscure books, but finding actually good books. So, a little bit of a spoiler. This is a good book. But first, before we jump into the review, guys, I just want to let you know, besides reading books and talking about books, I wrote a book. It's a fantasy book. It's called The Ballad of Ages. Yeah, you can read it in a weekend. But if you're looking for a quick read and I think a good read, jury's out. A fun read. Ballad of Ages. Check it out. It's on Amazon. But that's not why you're here today. You're here today to hear about this book called Pilgrims by a new debut author named M.R. Leonard. So, I'm not taking credit for discovering this book. I found this from an awesome YouTube channel called Fantasy for the Ages. And that guy reviews really good science fiction books and fantasy books. And a lot of books that I love, that I've never would have discovered on some of the main channels or whatever. They talk about all the books at Barnes & Noble and stuff. Not that those are bad, but yeah, Fantasy for the Ages. Check out his channel. It's awesome. But he had a video not too long ago that caught my eye when I was scrolling. I forget exactly what it was called, but the premise is like 10 science fiction fantasy books that Christians will enjoy. Now, here's where I'm going to lose a lot of you, right? A lot of you are like, I don't want to read books, Christian books or whatever. But I'm going to push back on that because there's a lot of great fantasy and sci-fi books that are also Christian or have Christian themes. And so anyway, so I love that, finding books that highlight my faith and supplement it and make it more exciting, I guess is a way to say it. It's probably going to get kicked out of church now. Sorry. Anyway. So anyway, this video caught my attention and I wanted to watch it, or I watched it and I wanted to see if there's any new books under the sun, right? Turns out I've pretty much read them all. You know, the highlights: Narnia, Lord of the Rings, you know, a lot of other ones like now I can't even think. Blanking. Oh, the Space Trilogy by Lewis. So, you know, kind of the greatest hits. And then he mentioned, the YouTube channel guy mentioned this book called Pilgrims. And so I'm like, whoa, I never heard of that one. What's this? And so I'm like really, really focusing. And then I see the cover. It's a sweet cover. Look at this. It's like awesome spaceship hovering over, looks like Rome. So I'm like, what the heck is this? So I'm like really, really tuned in. And then it turns out this book came out in 2024. So it's like super modern. So I'm like, okay, now I got to check it out. And I looked in the library. Nope. Nothing. It's not in the library. Looked at like Amazon stuff. It was like $20. Not too bad. No, don't quote me on that. I don't know if it's $20. But then I looked in Kindle. And it was on Kindle. But the cool thing is it's on Kindle Unlimited. So guys, Kindle Unlimited is the best kept secret in the world. There are so many good books on there. And it's not super expensive. It's like a monthly cost. There are so many great books on Kindle Unlimited. And you just read them for free. Well, for the cost or whatever, subscription price. Kind of like you watch Netflix or something. But a lot of like new or self-published books, this isn't a self-published book, but it's kind of in that vein. They're on Kindle Unlimited. And I was stoked because I'm like, all right, cool. I don't got to buy anything today. I'm just going to download it and read it. Oh, man. And honestly, like, when I started it, I was excited because I've never heard of it. And this YouTube channel that I like Said it was good. So I'm like, all right, it's probably good. But if I'm being honest with you, when I started it, I did not have any good expectations. I'm like, this is probably it's probably going to be just boring or whatever. Not too good. Not really good written. You know, it's a debut novel. The author's probably somehow friends with the YouTube channel guy, and like, I don't know, kind of a quid pro quo type of deal. That was a clever segue. You'll learn saying Latin. You'll learn. Anyway, read the book. Um, so I am so happy to say I was dead wrong. This book blew me away. Incredible. Such a great book. I did not expect it to be this good. This, I know it's only, well, when I finished it, it was February still. Second month of the year, but this is already possibly the best book, for sure the best surprise book of the whole year. It's going to be hard to top this. So now you're like, okay, why is it so good, right? I'll jump into it. But I really want to set the stage. This is a cool book. And then to circle back, I truly don't think you have to be a Christian to enjoy this book. I don't think you have to be a theology nerd to enjoy this book. It's a very good sci-fi book. I think, though, who this is suited for best is definitely like Christian or like theology nerds. People that love reading scripture and like commentaries and stuff will love this book, especially if they like sci-fi. This checks every box for that. And I like a lot of those things. So this book really, man, I loved it. It was great. So what's it about? All right, stick with me because this is going to sound nuts. It's going to sound like a weird VeggieTales thing. I promise you the execution of this is so good. It's not cartoony at all. It's great. So what happens? There's a ancient alien civilization that makes or Earth discovers, you know, the military discovers. They make contact. They discover they are coming to Earth. They're on their way to Earth. And they're 5 years away. They don't respond to communications, nothing. The Earth just knows they're coming. 5 years' time. That's it. So that's the start. And that's part one. Let me tell you now, I'm going to get into spoilers at this point. All right. So if you don't want to be spoiled, tune out and then come back. Read the book and come back. But I can't talk about this book without spoiling it. All right. So part one is really clever because, like, if you think about it, like, I've never read a book or thought of it. Like, what would the world do? How would that change everyday life of just everyone in the world? Knowing 5 years from now, there's going to be some ancient alien race coming to us in their spaceship. We don't know why they're coming. They won't respond to our communications. How does that affect your everyday life, right? What's your outlook? So that's part one, and it's really clever and smart, and it's like speculative sci-fi at this point. And I think the author nails it. He creates a situation that is totally believable of how the world would respond in this sort of situation if this scenario played out. So what happens is the main character, you introduce the main character, and he's a Latin teacher, and he's kind of just, fallen into sin and stuff. He's like, well, there's really no point, right? So he's kind of just spending money on vices and stuff. That's what a lot of the world is doing at this point. It's like 5 years from now, aliens are coming, probably going to blow us up or kill us all, whatever, right? And at the same time, the military's just ramping up. They're creating these civilian groups, and they have to go to training and stuff. And it's just like the world is very just plunged into chaos, kind of. I mean, there's very harsh military control because there has to be. People are just kind of going crazy, and there's just sort of just stealing stuff. The price of everything is nuts because the economy's just thrown into chaos. People They're given all currency is turned digital, controlled by the government. So the government can reward people or take away or punish them by taking money out of their accounts. So it's very like scary, like future world, dystopian type of thing. But it's very believable how the world. I don't think the world would rise to goodness if they, honestly, if I don't think they would cling to morals and things if they knew some alien civilization was coming in 5 years. I think it's very accurate that the world would just plunge into chaos and everyone would just cling to their vices because why not, right? The world's going to end probably. So that's part one. And so then part two, here's where it gets kind of crazy, or very, I shouldn't say crazy, but unique. Here's where the uniqueness of this book plays out. So book two, or part two comes, the aliens come and they park their ship, one of their ships, right above the Vatican City, which is this cover of the book. It's okay. So they park on top of Vatican City. Great. And then they send this little robot guy to come out, and he comes out and he finally talks to humans, but he talks in Latin. I'm like, what the heck? And so, long story short, they need a translator, so they get the main character. His name is Austin. He's a Latin teacher, remember? So he becomes kind of thrown into this. There's other stuff that goes on in part one that I'm just skipping that are important, but I don't want to have a 3-hour review here. But anyway, so they find Austin, kind of throw him into this, and he's the translator between like the military and the aliens, kind of like Arrival, that movie. So but it's a little different. So they talk in Latin, and they find out, Austin finds out, and the military finds out, okay, these aliens are Christians, and they wanted to come and talk to the Pope, right? What? So here's where people are like, what the heck? This is the weirdest thing ever. I promise you, it's not cartoony, it's not goofy, it's very smart and clever and believable. So you're kind of confused. Why are these aliens Christians? Why are they here to talk to the Pope? They traveled all this way because they want to have Mass. They want to have partaken the Lord's Supper, which, if you don't know, is the body and blood of Christ. They're Christians, and the aliens realize they can only partake in this Lord's Supper on earth, because that's where Christ was. So they come. Everyone's kind of relaxing at this point. They're like, oh, they're not coming here to blow us up. They're peaceful. They're Christians. Great. This is cool. But then it starts to be like, why? Well, how do we deal with this? Like, so they don't leave. The aliens just kind of stay. And all the world governments get nervous. They're like, ooh, they have a lot of power. They could overthrow us in a second. We got to do something about this. And so there's like all these groups break out. The Christian groups that are advocating for the aliens to stay, they're all for it. They're like, hey, this is great. They're peaceful. They're not going to hurt anybody. You know, they're God's children too. So great. Let's keep them here. Let's all be friendly. And then there's like the military and all the other people. And they're like, no, they don't believe. They think Christianity is just this farce, that they're not going to, eventually they're going to become power hungry and blow up the world and want to take it over. So there's that group. And they sort of butt heads. And then, while this is all going on, Austin and Father Ambrose, he's a priest, they are taken up into the ship and they are able to explore, and they try to prove that, hey, these aliens they're not like here to hurt people. They're not here with all these weapons. Well, they discover they do have weapons. They are militarized. They do have an army. And so that just adds more to the tension, kind of the nervousness. And so Austin, the main character, he's kind of torn between the aliens and the U.S. military. And, you know, the U.S. military is basically the world. The U.S. basically is the world government at this point. So, I mean, there's others, but they kind of run the show. So he's kind of torn between the two. And he doesn't know quite what to believe either, but he's starting to pull towards Christianity and be like, no, they're really peaceful. But then the General Ferguson, who's the military head, he's kind of like, no, they're lying to you. Like, they're just playing you. They're trying to get on your side so they can come in and just kind of Trojan horse sort of thing. So it's very interesting, the back and forth on it. Okay. One cool thing is the robot. That is sort of their guide throughout the ship, and kind of the envoy between the aliens and the humans. His name is Virgil, and that's a sweet tip of the cap, because if you know, in the Divine Comedy, Virgil is the guide for the main character who descends into hell and tours. Anyway, so that was just a cool little Easter egg. Way to go, M.R. Leonard. That was cool. So where am I? Okay, so then when all chaos starts to break loose, and I think it's part 3. I'm losing what part I'm on. It doesn't matter. So what happens is there's all these ships all around the world. Aliens are sort of parking their ships in different hubs of the world. And of course, they park their ship in Jerusalem, above the temple, which, if you know, in modern world, that's where now is like Muslim land, right? Islam has the temple. And the aliens, they say the Lord's Prayer like super loud, like on a huge loudspeaker, so like everyone in the vicinity can say it, can hear it. And so they say the Lord's Prayer every day at like a certain time or something. You know, they're being reverent to their religion. Well, that doesn't sit well with the Islamic folks, that they take offense to it. And I mean, that makes sense. So they get really angry and they want to get the aliens out of there because they're against their religion, and that they take it as their oh gosh, they're offending them on purpose. Like, that's their goal. So then they send a faction and a military kind of zealot group, and they attempt to blow up one of the ships. Doesn't go so well. The aliens have very sophisticated technology and power, and that's where all the bad events start. The world descends into chaos. The aliens become militarized. And then here's where the book is really scary and sad. And I will just say this. So the events that play out here, I could totally see as happening. If I was of the Muslim faith and I read this book, I honestly would be very mad and offended about what happens. The author in no way is trying to offend any other faith. That's not his goal. He's just trying to speculative fiction, thought experiment, play it out. And I'll explain why that's important in a second. So what ends up happening, the aliens, they go to war against basically all of the Middle East, which, what a weird time to read this book, because there is a war in the Middle East right now that just started. So that's kind of spooky. But so the aliens go to war against the Middle East with the single goal of killing Muslims. So again, if you're a Muslim and you read this, you're going to be like, what the heck? And probably just throw this book in the fire. So they do that, and it's a big mass genocide, even kids, and it's like sad. It's like really sad. The author makes a point to say all the human Christians get angry with the aliens, and they go on the ship and they're like arguing like, you cannot do this. This is not what Christianity is. We don't kill our enemy. We love our enemy. And so that is in the book, and that's very good and refreshing to read that, because that's a true Christian group would not kill someone of another faith. That's not what Christianity is. You love your enemy. So then, the humans, Christians, get really mad at the aliens, and it's horrible. Everyone is mad at each other. But what just a unique thing. Like, I've never read anything like this in any book. So then, what happens is eventually Father Ambrose wins them over, teaches them, and realizes, hey, Christ preaches love. Love your enemy. Don't kill your enemy. And so eventually they realize that. There's a lot more to the book. That's just the main plot. And I'm not going to say any more about what happens. You have to read what happens. There's a lot of symbolism, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of theology stuff, and really good sci-fi. Like Leonard writes, it reminded me of Stephen King. He's very character driven. In every chapter, like, you can't put down. Like, you have to know what happens next. That's very Stephen King-esque. I'm not going to say he's as good as Stephen King. I mean, no one is. But that's how it read, and it was very good. Especially for a debut novel. Holy cow. Awesome stuff. Man, this is just a really unique, cool book. If you are a theology nerd and you love sci-fi, read this book. It's awesome. There's so much more about it that I'm probably forgetting. So as much as I'm saying how awesome it is, I'll highlight one thing that kept it from being a perfect score. Something that, as realistic as the events happen in this book are, I feel like the ending sort of dropped the ball. I was like, what? No. Like, I could have. So, again, spoilers, but at the very end, General Ferguson, United States military, like second in command of like the military, comes up with a plan to put a nuke on the alien mothership. So it's like a dead hand, a nuke that from Earth the humans can detonate at any point. So basically, it's kind of like a stalemate or a dead hand, right? Kind of like a Cold War tactic. If the aliens decide to break the truce and start attacking, then General Ferguson can flip a switch, blow them up. But they need to get that nuke on the ship. So their plan is to hide it. They build a pulpit. They hide it in the pulpit, and they're going to bring the pulpit onto the ship because then they can do a mass, a service, church service on the ship. So that one, I kind of scratched my head. I'm like, really? Like, you don't think the aliens can detect a nuke coming on their ship, even if it's hidden on a pulpit? Like, that was kind of unrealistic. The U.S. military would never go for that plan. That would never happen. So I just kind of, that kept it from being a perfect score, because all the build up to that was awesome, and then it just kind of like, what? So, spoiler, again, the aliens knew all along the nuke was on there, and they just sent it out, and well, okay, there's a cool ending with what happens with the nuke. I'm not going to say it. You just got to read it. Ties into Christianity, so that's cool. You need to read it to figure out what happens with the nuke, but I just don't think that's realistic. I don't think the U.S. military would go for that plan. I think there'd be a lot of people like, no. They have enough technology to fly across the galaxy. They have enough technology to be able to detect a nuke hidden in a wooden pulpit. Like, come on, guys. Whatever. But they were okay. But beyond that, this book was fantastic. Everything was just spot on, very clever, great read, great sci-fi, and very theological. And that's just so cool. You don't read too many sci-fi books that showcase Christianity in a good way, and this is one of them. Most science fiction just treats Christianity as just, this is just a stupid myth dumb people believe because they're brainwashed. No, this is really cool, and it's unique stuff, and I've never thought of it this. So, okay, I'm going to go back and talk about how the cool thing is that the author answers so many questions that you have when you read this book. So, like, when I'm reading it, I'm like, how are there aliens? How do they come from way across the galaxy? How do they know what Christianity is? How do they know who Jesus is? Like, huh? And I was so worried that he wasn't going to answer that, but he does. And it's awesome. It's very unique and clever. So the aliens they've lived for a very long time, right? Way back in the Old Testament days. And they have these surveillance apparatuses where they can view things that are going on in the galaxy because they're very advanced in technology. So they come across the surveillance video of Earth when Jesus was living, and they sort of follow him, and they're like, wow. They see the miracles, and they're like, wow. And they see the crucifixion, and they're like, wow. And then they see the resurrection, and they're like, holy cow. And they recognize, they can see the signs, which is great. And a great tie back to actual scripture where God gives the signs that he's sending his son and he is God. His son is God. And the aliens recognize the signs, but so many humans can't. And that is just the best part of this book. How he throws it at your face like, come on, man. Humanity, you guys are dumb. You do not recognize the signs of the Son of God. The aliens do. And so they start to realize, wow, this is the Son of God. He is salvation. He's the source of salvation. And so they become Christians, which is so cool because they see it. They see like almost like they're watching on their TV. And then they're like, we got to go to Earth and check this out. So they come to Earth on like sort of like a pilgrimage, which is why it's called Pilgrims. That's so cool. That's such a cool idea. The one thing I wish he would have went into, and maybe he will in a sequel. I hope M.R. Leonard watches this video. And here's an idea for the sequel, because this part wasn't answered. That just was ruminating in my mind. I had a question that was not answered. And I've thought about it a lot, even before this book came out. It doesn't grapple with the idea if aliens from different planets, are they part of God's plan of salvation? Are they children of God like humans are? Did Christ come to save the aliens from across the galaxy, or did he just come to save humans? That's a question. And it wasn't answered in this book. I'm not marking them down because of that. But hopefully a sequel comes out and that becomes answered. I hope so. Oh man, Pilgrims is a great book. It's so good. It was a great surprise to read this book. I'll say this too, like a huge weight was lifted from my shoulders when I read this book. And here's what I mean by that. So I love sci-fi and fantasy. Always have, always will. And I'm a Christian and I'm a huge like theology nerd. I think it's awesome. And the Bible is the greatest piece of literature ever made. It's divinely inspired, of course. And it's just so cool when I read secular works that highlight scripture and sort of point back to it. And so I love that. And so I've always thought, kind of took it upon myself, like I need to write a really good modern story that plays with the idea of like aliens or something, that in case this happens, people need to know, have some kind of warning, or like the thought experiment has to be played out. So they kind of don't go into it blind. They're like, oh, this kind of happened in this story. And here's what happened. And maybe we should avoid doing this certain thing so it doesn't end up horrible for us. Which is what I think one of the best purposes of literature is to play out a scenario and we can see from start to finish how choices affect the plot, character choices. And so we can avoid those pitfalls that the characters make in the book. So I'm like, I need to combine all my interests that God has given me and create sort of like a story, like a warning for posterity. You know, maybe aliens come. How does that affect faith? Or how do we deal with that? And so I've always sort of like struggled with that, like, oh man, I need to do this. And then I read this book and the weight lifted. It's like, M.R. Leonard already did this. This book already exists. And the cool thing is, this is much better than anything I ever would have thought up or written, and I promise you that. So thank you, M.R. Leonard. The weight is lifted. I don't have to write this book anymore. You wrote it, and it's awesome. So there you go. I'll just say too, like I was blown away. It's really cool how the character work, the main character and all the struggles they go through, they're so relatable. Like they're struggles that people today go through. And it's just very good to see. Very fun to see. You know, this when you read like Lord of the Rings, the struggles that they go through, I mean, you kind of have, there's always human struggles everyone always has for all time, but it's like when my horse dies or whatever, I don't struggle with that, right? But I struggle with technology and temptation and stuff, and like that's played out in this book. And it's so good. Please read it. Pilgrims by Leonard. 9 out of 10. Not a perfect 10, but very close. And please make a sequel by Leonard. It's on Kindle Unlimited, guys. It's free. If you have Kindle Unlimited, read it. So that's an awesome sci-fi book. Everyone can enjoy. Until next time, have a great rest of your day.